Hey guys, Mike DeVo here. Just wanted to make a short video on the banned and restricted announcement coming up this Monday and talk about some of the changes we can make to our Rhinos decks. So, this Monday we are getting a banned and restricted announcement, and the number one card everyone is complaining about has to be VIOLET OUTBURST. So why this card? While there are plenty of Cascade effects, this is the only one that can be cast at instant speed. This makes protection cards like Force of Negation a premium while casting VIOLET OUTBURST at our opponent's end step. People are hoping that with the potential ban, requiring Cascade effects to be cast at sorcery speed will be less overpowered. So with all that in mind, I want to talk about what Rhinos decks would look like post-ban. If you guys have any more ideas on how to make these decks better, or you think I left anything out, make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and let's go check out these decks. Alright, so the first deck we're going to look at just takes your stock domain Rhinos list, takes out the VIOLET OUTBURST, and replaces it with 4 Ardent Plea. So Ardent Plea is an enchantment with Exalted and Cascade. So Ardent Plea isn't strictly worse than VIOLET OUTBURST, but it is a lot worse because it's not at instant speed. The Exalted trigger will come up occasionally, but for the most part, you don't really get to use it. So with this change, the rest of the deck just pretty much stays the same. You can maybe adjust the land base. We added like one more Arid Mesa, but for the most part, you can keep everything the same. Not that big of a deal, right? So with this next list, we're taking out VIOLET OUTBURST. We are replacing it with Ardent Plea again, but this time we're also adding Bloodbraid Elf. So Bloodbraid Elf is 4 more copies of Cascade effects. In order to fit this card in, we'd have to take out 4 Force of Negation, because you don't want to Cascade into Force from Bloodbraid Elf because it's a 4 CMC, and Force is 3 CMC. So what's cool about this deck is that you can Bloodbraid Elf, you could Cascade into a Charlotte Agent, which would then Cascade into Crashing Footfalls. You could also Cascade into an Ardent Plea, which would Cascade into another Crashing Footfalls. In this deck, we like to call that Living the Dream, where if you get to cast Bloodbraid Elf into Charlotte's Agent into Crashing Footfalls, it's just, you get 13 power on turn 4, which is pretty sweet. So again, other than that, your core domain list stays the same. You have your Leyline of the Guildpact and Scion of Draco combo, but what if they ban Leyline of the Guildpact? What do we do then? Now we have to kind of mix things up. So in this version, we have our 4 Ardent Pleas again. These are always going to replace VIOLET OUTBURST. There are other Cascade effects. We can talk about those later, but in the main deck here, we're keeping Ardent Plea as our Cascade of choice. In this version, we've replaced Leyline and Scion with 4 Dead Gone and 4 Solitude. So we have our Solitudes as our Scion threat, just an additional threat, and then we have our 4 Dead Gones. It's extra removal. It's pretty flexible. This is what we used to play in our Team of Rhinos deck, so it's pretty much just the same that way. If you don't like the Solitude edition, you can always replace Solitude with 4 Bloodbraid Elf. So this version is a lot more flexible. You can choose your threat. You can have more Cascade effects. You can keep the Solitudes. We do have white cards to pitch to it with Leyline and Ardent Plea. Not that many, but I think it's enough. But if you want to stay on that core Cascade plan, we would just take out the 4 Solitude. You're going to end up taking out Force of Negation as well and putting them in the sideboard. Putting in 4 Bloodbraid Elf, and then probably 4 Scion of Draco. That's up to you what you want to fill that space with. Alright, and lastly, we have our potential sideboard cards. So if VIOLET OUTBURST was to get banned, the whole meta would change. Right now, Crashing Footfalls and Living End are the top decks. But if VIOLET OUTBURST gets banned, the other decks will climb to the top. So right now, Amulet Titan, Domain Zoo, Murktide, Yawgmoth combo, Tron, and Omnath decks would fight to contend for the top spot. So let's look at some of these sideboard cards and see how we could compete against those. So we'd want Boseiju on our sideboard if we were worried about Amulet Titan, Tron, and Blood Moon effects. Gemstone Caverns we'd put in if we want to just be extra fast. If we're worried about blue decks, we have Mystical Dispute and Force of Negation. Same with Teferi Time Raveler. We'd want these in our sideboard if more control decks pop up. Force of Negation will most likely be in our main deck unless we're playing Bloodbraid Elf. Dismember was originally added to the deck when Scam was the best deck in the format. But with the rise of other decks, I think it'll be a good card to add because Yawgmoth and Scam will definitely be on the rise after potential VIOLET OUTBURST ban. Speaking of Yawg and Scam, Bone Crusher Giant, definitely a great card to bring in. It's removal with a big body, great against Scam. We have our Blood Moon effects. If Amulet or Tron becomes the best deck in the meta, we'll definitely want more of these. Most likely Magus of the Moon just because Blood Moon's easier to get rid of with Boseiju, but Magus you need Dismember to get rid of. With VIOLET OUTBURST gone, Living End decks won't be as prevalent, but that doesn't mean Mill and Goryo's Vengeance won't be very popular. So we'll definitely need some endurance to take care of those graveyard decks, and also it's great to bring in against Murktide. Although Hammer Time hasn't been a really good deck in a while, Force of Vigor might become more necessary with the VIOLET OUTBURST ban. This is also really good against Amulet Titan, so I think it's a flexible enough card where you can keep some number of Force of Vigor in your sideboard. Flame of Venor is the Team of Rhinos All-Star. It's a very flexible card, and we might need to be extra flexible if VIOLET OUTBURST gets banned. Finally, we have Drannith Magistrate. If there is a potential ban, there's going to be less Cascade decks. This card is strictly for the Cascade Mirror, so if there's less Cascade, we probably don't need to bring this in. We probably don't need this in our sideboard. But if there still are a lot of Cascade decks in the meta, there's nothing wrong with running a few of these in your sideboard. And lastly, Territorial Kavu. I'm not too big a fan of transformational sideboards, but you can run 4 of these and just take out 4 Rhinos and bring in 4 Kavus. It can be effective, it can catch your opponents off guard, but it's not my favorite. So these are just some of the most played sideboard cards that I've played, that I've seen be played. Let me know if you think I left any sideboard cards out that I should have talked about. So with that, banned and restricted announcements are on Monday. Do I think anything's going to get banned? I really don't think so, but who knows? There are plenty of other cards that could be banned that we didn't talk about. We know Grief's been a card that everyone's hated for a while now. We have the One Ring, we have Orcish Bowmasters. We have that card that if it gets banned, your pet deck can be the greatest deck in the modern meta. But that'll do it for me. I hope you enjoyed this different type of video. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Peace.